it's been a while since I've talked about a game where the crux of my interest in Impress has been towards the community that have supported a project more than the original developers. But it does happen sometimes. Like if you think back to when I was talking about Clone Hero, when I brought up the Mario 64 decompilation and then subsequent kind of fan-made projects, remakes, whatever. Or I remember like talking to Minty about Doom and its modding community and stuff like that. Sometimes the community is as big and exciting as the original thing. And I've been playing, believe it or not, Final Fantasy VII on the Steam Deck. And whilst the quality of this game as an RPG that made the genre mainstream in a way that we hadn't really seen before, despite the big releases on the SNES, is undeniable, what I actually want to talk about is the suite of modification options available to modern players to make this a very fresh and easily accessible and pick-upable game through a hub known as Seventh Heaven that you can get for free online. If you own Final Fantasy VII on Steam, which I did from some point in the past, you can install Seventh Heaven via desktop mode on the Steam Deck, and then you can tweak basically every single pixel and system in the original game to make it either as modern or vanilla as you like. And this is not the work of one person. It's a repository of probably close to 100 different projects that address every aspect of presentation and gameplay in what is, we all know, a beloved entry in the Final Fantasy series. Lots of people really, really love it, and I've never played past the first hour. So, for whatever reason, I thought, I'm going to pick this up, I'm going to give it a go. I found a guide on the Steam forums that basically listed the optimum way of setting up the game through this kind of mod launcher through Seventh Heaven. And although it did take a good hour or so's work to install and configure everything for the first time, I've played it for like close to 10 hours now. It's been utterly smooth sailing past that initial window of tweaking. So you've got the game. You've then got new character models in the overworld, in battle, kind of across the whole thing. They've just been tarted up, resed, fixed, made to look a lot cleaner when you're playing at kind of a high resolution display. We've got crisp HD interface. We've got all the character icons and menus redone. We've got modern controller options and resolution settings. We've got updates to the active time battle system that make things a little bit more friendly to newcomers like me. You can have a permanent health display for enemies that you never had before. We've got properly upscaled pre-rendered backgrounds that have then been tweaked by hand to kind of iron out AI oddities. We've even got, and I don't even understand how some of this stuff is possible, the expansion of previously 4x3 art to native 16:9, like not stretched, just expanded. Yeah. And I assume in the same way, it's probably used kind of an AI tool to get started and then has been kind of rebuilt on top of what it's provided to kind of expand a scene. And every once in a while in these, there might be a slight clipping issue where it's like, oh, Cloud's got in front of an object where he should be behind. But they weren't part of the base game. So, if your sword occasionally pokes through a bit of the art, I'm not going to complain too hard because it's very impressive that it's been done at all. And they fit essentially perfectly in the game. For someone like me, especially who is not super au fait with any of the world that Final Fantasy VII takes place in, I just see a native widescreen presentation. It doesn't feel like a game that's just been hacked and stretched to feel widescreen. It just works as is. Even more impressive than that, the full motion video sequences that were originally, I think they ran at 15 frames per second in the PlayStation 1 game. They've been upscaled and interpolated to 30 frames per second for starters, which is like, okay, I know there's technology to do that kind of thing. But also, they've somehow been re-encoded to include the updated character models that Seventh Heaven allows you to apply in game. And I don't know if they're like being rendered on top of the video, or if they've somehow bounced the whole video out, re-glued them in frame by frame, and then put them back in. But either way, similar to the 69 backgrounds, not 100% perfect. Like there's sometimes a bit of strange character movement or like a little shimmer or something. But stepping back, it feels like witchcraft. It's something that this was not how it was. It is not how it's been in any of the remakes or remasters or whatever you call it that Square have been putting out, like on the Switch or more recently on kind of other platforms. But you can play the original Final Fantasy VII with all this stuff just working. And that's absolutely bananas to me, really. Like, there's so much more I could have installed as well, but I opted to go without. So if you want a fully retranslated script, if you think the original was maybe not quite colloquial enough, didn't have the right kind of bounce to it, someone's redone that. Do you want a full fan voice acting? Like, just, none of the characters are voiced in the original, but they can be if you want them to. Again, don't know about the quality of it, but it's there. The long and short of it is that if anyone wants to play the PC version of Final Fantasy VII in 2024, this is absolutely the way to do it, because you can go completely old school, almost completely vanilla with just a handful of tweaks and modernizations to make it run on a new machine. Or you can play what essentially is the remaster many always dreamed about as an alternative to the big budget remake that Square Enix is currently shipping in chunks. So if you want that experience, it's there. But if you want just the original game looking nicer and running better, that's there as well. I'm really enjoying my time with it as well. And I was quite surprised because, again, I'm not the RPG guy. I didn't think it would necessarily grab me. It's one of those games that's been a bit of a white whale like Deadly Premonition, because I have started it 4 or 5 times in my life. Like on the Vita, I tried a few times and I just never made it more than like an hour or two in. And I'm much more invested this time and much further into the story than I found myself before. And I'm hopeful that I'll keep motivated to sort of pick away at this game in dribs and drabs. But as I said, my kudos and applause is not to Square, because they have plenty of plaudits for the PS1 era Final Fantasies in particular, but it's to this team at, Seventh Heaven, that group, all these contributors that just with nothing but passion for this game have ensured it remains a fresh and enticing proposition for anyone, potentially just infinitely into the future. The original game shipped on 3 PlayStation 1 discs, and I think I'm at the point now I've just wrapped up what would have been the end of disc 1. So as much as obviously playing on the PC, it's just a seamless experience. If I was having to swap out my black bottomed PS1 discs, I would be on disc 2 now. If I keep making headway, maybe I'll go into a bit more detail about the game itself, like the gameplay or writing or story or combat next month. But it's a game that's been done to death. I think it's actually quite boring to talk about, because every podcast in the world, every kind of video games channel on YouTube has gone, oh, you know what game's really good? Final Fantasy VII. Even on this show, Minty had it as one of his top 100s. So you can go back and listen to that if you want someone to talk about it. For me, though, I was surprised how much I've enjoyed the game, because I didn't think it would necessarily be for me. I'm even more surprised at how it just works in kind of modern day, just through people being interested and invested to keep it working, and keep it working in a way that is better than it was when it came out, essentially.
And I love seeing like that sort of effort. Like even just my brief dalliance with the fan translation of the GDA Dragon Warrior Monsters game. It's just like that, it's so much work. There's so much work, and people just did it.
Yeah.
Not for themselves, because the people that did it obviously understand Japanese.
Yeah.
They're just, so they're doing it just for everybody else.
Some of the fan translations that are hugely impressive as well was when you kind of read into how people have had to go about doing it. When I was younger, I kind of wrongly assumed it was just open up the file, find the word, type the new one. And obviously it's much more involved than that. But a lot of the time people are having to write software tools to extract stuff from the game in the first place, to then be able to translate it, parse it, edit it, check it, put it back in, and then make sure everything works with just endless playtesting as well. Like, it's a huge investment of time. And again, like you say, for people that could have played it themselves anyway, because 9 times out of 10, these are people who can speak Japanese went, wow, what a good game. Wouldn't it be nice if Chris and Jonathan could play that too?
Exactly.
That's really beautiful. That's a really, really lovely thing.
It is. And now people are so glad they can play Deadly Premonition on the Steam Deck if they want to.
I'm getting so many nice comments still on my Reddit post. Like almost daily, I get a little thumbs up, or just someone going, "You absolute mad lad! Can't wait to give it a go." So I'm happy with that.
You should be. You are. You are one of the good ones.